Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I'm your host, Chad. It's Marcus, the glorious one himself. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Yes, sir. Good. Glad to be back.
We are coming in this week with a buttload, two handfuls low information regarding the TNA roster. It's the sole focus of today's show, save for two others. One of which is before we get to the headline of today's show, the departure of two of what I believe are TNA's best acts. Sting, his son, is going to be going by AEW by trademarking Flash. And Marcus, I can't tell you how excited I am of that being a realistic possibility to be named, because I think that's great. Now, I don't know if he can get away with just Flash, although I hope he can. Because if you remember, Sting used to be known as, what was it, Rock? Because, like, him and the Warrior had different names. I think it was, like, Warrior and Rock. And, like, how great would that be if that was, like, kind of continuing on with that singular name for his kid? I think that would be nice. Though, of course, we haven't seen much of his son wrestle. He's only been doing dark matches for AEW. I'm optimistic. Oh, sorry. Sting went by Blade Runner Flash back in the day. So there you go. I just thought he went by Rock. Borden changed his name to Flash. Hellway, the Ultimate Warrior. So that's just a little dope bit for you guys in the wrestling world. But the big headline for this week, of course, fans of Seth Lander have quit TNA wrestling. This stems over to Lander not being cleared to wrestle. Apparently, she was fed up with it, and she even tweeted out maybe a month ago that she was looking for help getting cleared to wrestle. TNA won't do it. I believe she already has her first match back from her broken neck next month, I think. What it's it'll be later this month. So it's coming up. It's coming real fast. It's her first match since late 2024, early 2025. And TNA wasn't going to play. They didn't feel like her in enough shape for whatever reason. I think it's an insurance issue. TNA is kind of in that situation right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they thought that it was too much of a natural clear her. So she quit, and her real life quit solid. She didn't ask him to, and TNA offered him the choice to stay. And it seems like, while this was a dramatic headline, it seems like all parties involved are just like, yeah, and things on. Delander has since gone on the media tour, which usually people do once they leave a major company, and she hasn't revealed anything that's shocking. She said that one of her driving factors for wrestling was, of course, the pay. And she also revealed that while she was out and she didn't do the show, she didn't get paid by TNA. It's surprising. TNA is on a paid per deal. So I don't think anyone's, none of the information that came out in the Delander interview, I think, was some kind of shocking revelation. I do think she has something to honor and that she wants to still go. I think she should. Clear. I think party ways is the best thing. That being said, Delander is one of those people that have such a unique and her husband, Mance, was one of their best hands that they weren't. They gave him like stupid face paint and like the occasional dark match. And it was so hard to watch someone who really does have like a Funk vibe being squandered. But TNA also doesn't have a lot of talent. Losing someone like Mance it hurts because even though he's a big star for him, got in the head of the best he could have been. It sucks. It sucks that this is the situation we find ourselves in. But I don't begrudge TNA for being cautious about her neck because clearly they know something we don't. begrudge Steph Delander for saying I'm wrestling. I gotta be honest, unless my doctor like to take a bad bump, you'll die. I would still. It sucks that this didn't happen and the way it did at all. Because, ideally, you'd be like, Steph Delander's retiring in 36. And one retiring in 2042 as a 16-time TNA. Those are the ends that you want to see for guys and gals. It sucks that this is how it did. Mark, I don't know if you were too big into Mance Warner. I watched him a lot in MLW, and I thought his stuff in MLW was great. I can't remember. I want to say he did this great feud with MJF, but I don't remember if it was MJF. But it was early in MLW's revival. I think like Shane Strickland was still their champion. I just remember loving his energy and his vibe and his out of pocket behavior. And they never he had stone cold energy, not like stone cold and like drawing capabilities, but like how Stone Cold would just kind of randomly show up in the middle of an event in like a pickup truck and just start talking shit and like doing something outrageous. That's what Mance did, and that's what they could have done if they had a fucking clue how to use them. Do you think that Mance leaving will end up being a big loss for them, or do you think they'll be able to fill a spot?
It sucks from the perspective of that I wasn't as big on him as you, but I did see potential in the way of he could have been the filling the spot that Callahan had left.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think Delanda played a good match in that regard. I still don't have a good beat on her in terms of her in ring, but sometimes a lot of these women end up filling better spots as managers. We had we fans of Lish here, big fans of Lish Edwards, and she found her spot in terms of what she does in the ring, but she also found a sweet spot as a manager. She could feel both. She's actually gotten a lot more comfortable in her character overall across the show. Been interesting to see, but I thought her Mance and the Lander could have really gotten to an interesting groove. But just to your point, just doesn't feel like they were ever really allowed to. And even if they were going in the good direction, it was so back and forth and real inconsistent in the booking in terms of places it felt like he should have won when he didn't. Um, Particularly if he was going to kind of take over that hardcore spot, if you will. Um, so when you try to get a guy over like that and he never wins, it's kind of you take away a lot of believability. On top, you topple that with everything that was going on with Atlanta, her frustration with that, but she has the right to. Everybody knows their own body, but at the same time, to your other point, obviously that they may, the doctors or whoever's behind that may be aware of some things that they felt, wasn't in her best interest, and she felt otherwise, and they couldn't meet in the middle on it. So, you can't fault both sides for looking out for themselves. And like you said, they're getting paid per appearance, which for some it works good, for others it just don't. And I think the land also commented on them having a certain lack of wide range ability for care when it comes to certain things with other places like I guess say AEW and obviously WWE don't necessarily have those issues, but obviously they have bigger backings. So I can understand that, particularly when you're dealing with injuries, dealing with the neck. Not only is that extremely sensitive, but I would also imagine it's extremely financially taxing with everything that has to go into something like that. So, both sides kind of, I guess, just looked out for their best interest and other ways, and maybe they'll meet again somewhere down the line, which we see a lot when it comes to TNA. I mean, hell, we just, got another return of ODB. So, a lot of these names kind of float in and out, but we have been talking to, and I think this plays into another thing of them kind of behooving themselves in this particular period to kind of lock in some solid talents, stay consistent with them, and not play this kind of yo-yo game with them where there's potential there, but you don't put enough into them when you can. So you let them go, and then they eventually come back, but the steam isn't there, or they aren't where they were physically, and then it kind of just becomes kind of monotonous at that point. So I think they can fill that spot, but I don't know if I don't know if the mentality of how they do talents change.
Yeah. Let's see. I think it was MJF. They went all around the city, or maybe it's just been a segment. I don't know. He did have a few minutes that I have reconfirmed. I just don't remember the segment. I'm thinking it was an LW segment, and Mance Warner was either wrestling. It either had to be MJF or Sammy Callahan, and I don't know if it was an actual match, but like they were fighting in the parking lot of a motel, and it was hilarious. That's all I was. Early in MLW's revival. I'm a fan of his really, and I'm hoping going back to GCW. I'm hoping that um, that MLW will pick him back up because I think he could be really something fun for MLW, especially with Karrion Kross and Alexander Hammerstone back. Plus, I'm looking for any reason to pay Matt Riddle anymore. So like if they want to get rid of him, that'd be good too. I'd be okay with that. The departures of Mance Warner and Steph Delander aren't exactly the only news this week. We got some other news. Oh, by the way, Steph Delander said to expire in June anyway. She should, 2-3 months early. Apparently, TNA is re-signing Steve Macklin. Is that the dude from W? I think it might be Tony Gunn. Macklin is re-signed with TNA, which, not really that's 4 or 5 weeks of television. We thought he was gone for good, sincerely, when he got the Feast for Fire briefcase. IO. His contract is set to expire. There was no signed negotiation. And now it appears that Macklin is back for good. I'm not the... But I do think this is a good decision. I think he has ingratiated himself with the fans. I think he's capturing the TNA identity that they are striving to have. I think a lot of people are very into him in the sense that most TNA fans see him as someone who likes TNA. When you're a TNA fan, it's not always something that you don't always get a lot of people liking TNA. And so there's that natural, appreciation from the fandoms towards him. Of course, he's in now with Mike Montana. He's going to change the Fatal here soon. Marcus, initial take on
Just a take on Macklin.
Yeah, Macklin get re-signed as a whole.
Yeah, I think I've always seen a lot more Macklin than on your side of things. I think we kind of inverse on this as opposed to Warner.
Agreed.
And it's been cool to see because I think this is probably the most he's had to eat on in terms of them put some store on his plate since what the air thing, which they really invested into a lot of those vignettes we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been cool to see. While you was talking, I was thinking about it, and obviously, you've seen this since its inception. But like, how did you feel they handled this in terms of like building story off of Feast of Fire with an actual fire? And would you? And we've seen instances like this before. Way they've used it to jettison and or give talents more to eat off the bone, if you will. How do you think they did this with Macklin? Would you like to see this kind of thing going forward with more talents in the future with like Feast of Fire?
I gotta be honest. Even though I'm not the biggest Macklin guy, I really did enjoy how they brought him back.
Yeah.
Especially if everyone was in on it, and like, it's always possible that Macklin was at the league, right? Knowing how this business works, he may have been ready to leave. It also may have been that he sort of people, a couple months ago. So to see how they brought him, how they wrote him off of television, we all thought like the contract was up. This makes sense. And then to see him get brought back a couple weeks later, it's like, oh, okay, not
Yeah.
bad. I feel like that Henry Cavill meme where he's like talking about Warhammer, and then the one guy's, oh yeah, I'm
Mm.
doing this. All right, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how I am. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah. I think they did. Considering they are a limited. Listen, Tommy Dreamer and Delirious write the scripts of the plans. Not even all the others, just the ones that haven't eaten yet. And sometimes they glue the papers together. The paste eaters. I'm saying they're stupid. So no, they don't have sense to rub between them, and to know that they got this angle as well done as possible. Who goes to the short bus? You pulled it off, guys.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I said, I've kind of been high on Macklin for a significant period of time because I've seen him just be consistent. He's one of the MVPs. Honestly, I think him, obviously Santana. I look at Mustafa and some others. Obviously, that moves. You can keep going. Obviously, like we said, we would like more meat on the bone in terms of the roster. But guys like Macklin have really been in the trenches with them for the last however many years since he's been there. Particularly when his wife was there as well. But he's been one of the absolute soldiers. So um, I think it behooved him to decide. I think it behooved him to resign because I don't know if he'd get this consistent amount of attention elsewhere. I think if he went to maybe AEW or something, they'd just probably try to shut him down and pair him with his wife or throw him in a faction or something real quick. Um, so I think this is probably the place he can probably, build himself the best and get the most, like I said, amount of attention and probably get closer than most places to being a world champion again. So,
I know the pay in both WWE and AEW is nice, right? But like I keep like Deanna Pro. I'm not involved with the inner circle of AEW, and I feel like I'm optimized like 20%. Just because you get signed by a big company doesn't mean you're a big player. And I feel like you're looking at Macklin. And for the sake of argument, let's just say that like, all of his indie dates he makes normal, right? Let's say AEW comes around. Like, we'll give you 180K. Could be 40 to 60 grand difference. I don't know if I'm anyway. I go, literally, this is a slam on it. I don't know if I'm willing to risk what I've built for just a few bucks more. I think often guys will do that. Look at John Falcone. He's having some good matches. But he hasn't done shit. From the face of TNA wrestling in AEW. So he's probably getting paid at least more than he's getting paid in TNA, maybe 3 times more. But I feel like if you're worried about how you're going to be used, you can't just go, oh yeah, the money. You have to make a decision. You're either going to take the money or you're going to take the usage. AEW is only going to push maybe 20 people at a time, and they have about 150. You're going to work, Ring of Honor. You're going to work Collision. You're going to work whatever show they can get you on, even if it's not the main show. And you're going to have to be okay with that. And I think either Macklin didn't get an offer, which I would find truly shocking, because while I don't think he's the greatest, I do think there's a lot of value there, right? And if you're Tony Khan, he's a hell of an athlete, hell of a worker. I don't think he's John Gresham or Bryan Danielson or Davey Richards. But like for a dude who isn't gonna throw a lot of holds at you, he's phenomenal. He's a human scud missile. I think he even calls the diver to the floor the scud missile. So like he's got a lot going for him. And unlike so many others, when he does the face paint, it actually beats him because he's not a brand new character. No, he's like, this is a headspace. Into a headspace. So like, there's a lot of value there. And if you're not offering him a contract, what the hell are you doing as no? So I gotta feel like he got offered a contract, right? I feel that. But maybe he didn't like it. Maybe he wanted to be featured more often than what other guys who go to AEW would be. And like, I get why he would want to. Because I gotta be honest, I think Deanna Pratt is coming back to TNA once her contract's up. She did not want to be over there. Johnny Keith not happy over there. Former Johnny Impact. But I feel like he's done so much damage to his namesake. And I think it's on Twitter. I think the only way Johnny TV can revive his career at any point now is if he were to off reform and come back and do parties. I think that could get him back, and I think his current trend of throwback matches and reviving classic feuds. I think that would be a great thing for all four of them. Because I know Joey Mercury's kind of partially retired. He hasn't really worked, I think, since like 2013, 2023, I think. But like if him and Morrison got back together, Johnny TV, Johnny Impact, whatever, I think that would be phenomenal for and they're or whatever company they're in, especially TNA. So I think all this being said, Macklin opting to return to TNA either out of necessity or out of desire, it behooves both sides incredibly, and I'm optimistic to see what they do going forward. It should be real interesting, and I think Macklin's angle is hot enough. He wanted to take the belt off of Santana. I think you could argue for that because I don't really see anyone down the pipeline who should take the belt. Frankie Kazarian definitely should. So like, who's left? Macklin's one of your few main eventers who's not 38. But like, he's a main eventer and he's not 40, and that's something. So, we're going in the right direction. Would you like to see Macklin take the belt off of Santana?
I think if there was a time to do it, you got to do it coming off of this kind of angle because he's not had this much spotlight um directly on the TV in terms of us seeing him because like I said, he got a lot of spotlight in those vignettes with EY. But in terms of like him being a direct threat, not since he was hot on Alexander's ass all them years ago for the title. Um, so if you're gonna make him a problem, make him the problem with a guy like Mike, and it's believable he could drop him. Obviously, unfortunately, we've seen Santana be in some vulnerable positions and drop it before. Obviously, those extenuating circumstances that hopefully won't return in NXT. But yeah, I think you could definitely make an argument for it. Also, they've done a great job of building heat with it on commentary with his relationship with who was it, Hannafin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's been another interesting component that we've not had for some time. Maybe not since, ironically enough, um, Ringwalt was back in Deanna Parazzo. So, you know, that's been another key component. So it's even made, and dare I say, and this is gonna be the most blasphemous statement of the night. It's made chicken astute passable just for the fact that her assholeness has catered to Macklin shenanigans.
Hmm. Okay. By the by,
Yeah.
looking at this, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. Stream. You can actually see my screen. It's the No Surrender video of Steve Macklin assaulting Mike Santana post match. And one of the security guards looks like Tony Gunn from OVW. And I just pulled up a photo of Tony Gunn from like 7 years ago. And I'm telling you, it's him. And he hasn't fucking aged a day. Holy shit. You may not know who Tony Gunn is. Sorry, Mark. I was talking over you. What did you say?
No, so it's a lot of guns in the business.
There really are. Tony Gunn popped up for a little bit in TNA in like 2018, 2019 when they were doing some stuff with OVW. Um, I thought he was going to get signed. He's a really good indie hand, and I thought he could be like a good lower mid card guy, like a good worker. Um, he never picked him up full time, but I'm hoping that changes. He's not young. I think he's probably 40 by now, if not older. Um, but I don't know. I think he's one of those guys. I watched him a lot in OVW. He's 42. I think he's got a lot of value as a lower hand. Um, it'd be nice to see. They bring a lot of guys in who are independent contract or like indie guys to do these kinds of spots with like security and shit. I think Brett Ryan, former MLW wrestler, did some stuff with TNA around the end of the year last year. These are like tryouts essentially. They get to look at the guy, they get to talk to him, figure out like what they're about. I'm hoping they bring him in. I don't world champion. He's not gonna, boost the fucking sales. I don't have a Hayabusa too. I do think he can be a good little hand, though. Speaking of good little hands, AJ Francis isn't one of them, but he won't let me go. AJ Francis will not die. Apparently, Scooby Magiza announced that TNA has re-signed through the end of the year. I don't know who Scooby is. Heard of this? Whiteful's put their name on it as well. They must think that there's some. He's been fine. I think his best, like, and here's the thing that really kind of upset me. I was like, what would be great is if they got Asante Diaz. If they brought in Asante, they paired him with AJ. I thought that would have been a good idea. And then I find out that Asante's been signed with AEW for like 3 months. Who's that for? Stop doing it. What was the point of that? So now the only good idea I had for AJ Francis is gone, and I feel like TNA can just move on from him. I really don't think he adds anything. He brings in D-list rappers, but I gotta be honest with you, there isn't a single person I know who's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. That's Clam Oyster Man. Who? He sang that banger, Picture Frame. He's just making up words. Like, are you just looking at things in the basement and give them names? Oh, it's Carl the Young G. Who? Oh, Beatrice. Hammerfin, I know your job is to sell, right? I know it is. But stop trying to find the people with AJ Francis. Gives me that right. So like are you on board with AJ Francis, or are you kind of like he can?
Ironically enough, he's also been another one of their most consistent guys, even if we haven't always liked him. Yeah, I think he's had his moments. I think he's certainly not a guy that you want to overuse because he can get very irritating very fast. But I think he's had his moments. I think he's been good at making guys uh, look good in the ways that when he finds his moments in the ring, he works. Particularly against guys like a Rich Swan or I don't know if he's done anything with BDE. Maybe I forgot he's done stuff with BDE. Guys like that, maybe an Alexander when he was faced. I think he works great. Not only as an irritant on the mic, but somebody that you can play off big in the ring when he's not trying to do nothing stupid like a dive or doing anything off a ladder. Um, he's also not been injured. Because I think about it, I was going to ask you, did we have an update? And kudos to TNA for always giving us those injury reports
Mm-hmm.
uh, on Navarro.
I gotta think Navarro's close to coming back. We don't have anything official, but like he's been out for 9 months
Months.
now. And depending on how you heal, he tore his ACL, if I remember correctly. When I went through my ACL surgery, mine was very small. And they gave me kind of like a 90 to come back. I came back in 5 months. But it could take anywhere from 5 to 6 months all the way to a year, depending on how it heals. Um,
Yeah.
the ACL, now again, that's what I think he tore. The ACL is the stabilizing ligament of your knee. So like you can swim without it. You can even wrestle without it. You just can't wrestle well without it. Christopher Daniels wrestled without one for a long time. And I don't know if I believe that completely. That's what he always said. But if you looked at his left knee or whatever, his right knee, he would wear this 20-pound knee brace. Because I would have to imagine that what that knee brace was doing was giving him artificial stabilization of his knee. Now, Daniels wasn't really a super high. He did the best moonsault ever. And he did that sweet roll through judo thing that he did. But a lot of his stuff wasn't as super intensive as the other guys in the X division was. So like he could get away with being a little bit slower and being a little bit more methodical. Casey Navarro. I can understand why it would take Casey Navarro, a significant amount of time to return to TNA. But again, after the Steph Lander news, like maybe he doesn't want to return. I don't know. Wrestling is weird. Speaking of weird, TNA might land one of the bigger free agents this year, and it'd be great. Just for their own mind if they did. Indian sensation Ricky Sosa is making waves with his very bombastic and catchy intro. Fans all over the world are singing along to it. I think it's like bang bang Sosa Sosa. Wrong. I think that's what it is. And it's not like anything over the top, but like wrestling fans like it. We do. And Ricky Sosa has a lot going on for him. He's a good hand. Like by no means should we dismiss that. He's popular. He's not someone I think like Will Ospreay or Ricochet. Where you're like, oh my god, he's so good. Like he's one as far as generational talents go. He's popular. Fans like him. And sometimes I would like to see what he could do with them long term. So he's got to get signed first, but he's going to be on Impact in the coming weeks, and he's also going to be on Explosion. He filmed 2 matches with TNA. He's from the Netherlands too, by the way. Let's see. It says he has 1 match. I thought he filmed 2. Maybe he appeared on the show and was booked for a future match that hasn't been filmed yet. I don't know if you know much about Ricky Sosa.
Yeah.
Do you?
I seen like one interview with him. Seems like a real cool guy. Like you said, he's like a really good hand. That song is his aura, his energy, if you will, the swag. The kids say, it flows. It works. It's working with his crowds. Obviously, as certain subsect of the wrestling community, particularly one geared towards the feds, love a good sing along. I think wrestling fans in general as well. But I think he looks like somebody that can really show and prove in the ring, and he kind of shows shades of a younger, smaller Strickland. I see some shades of our X Division champion in him as well, and I think this would be a good get for TNA if they play it right. I don't know. I think he may very well have aspirations, as I imagine most do, looking at his age bracket of probably going to the Fed eventually. But I think TNA could be a good start and improvement ground for him in that regard. And let's be honest, and this has been us saying really not the quiet part out loud, but the clear part out loud. In a lot of ways, for a lot of talents these days, TNA is unfortunately a direct pathway to the E because of that loose relationship with NXT. So.
Unfortunately, and that's kind of the part that bugs me.
Yeah.
Hopefully something. I think TNA needs to do so. I think they need to go back. I don't know if they'll get him. You know, they
Yeah.
didn't sign a man like Doris, and I thought they were going to sign him. I thought they were going to sign Bryce Hanson, the Wild Bronco or Wild Pegasus or something. There was a couple other cats on that Canadian border war show that they did. They ended up signing Bill Collier, who is Agent Zero, but they didn't sign any of the other dudes, and I thought they were going to sign them. Like, I don't fucking know who they're looking for and what they're willing to pay. So, like, maybe they'll sign Ricky Sosa. I hope they do, especially with the
Hmm.
next news story, which is Leon Slater's contract is up this year. Fightful Selector is reporting that Leon Slater is in a contract year with TNA. He's cut down on his indie bookings to stay healthy so that he doesn't. I think we're dating ourselves with how we're trying to pretend we're hip and young. If they lose Leon Slater, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna weep. I'm gonna weep like I'm gonna cry. And everyone's gonna say, "You big baby." Do you think Leon Slater's on his way out?
Say that again. You cut out.
Sorry, Leon Slater might be leaving. Are you afraid that he might be on his way out the door?
Yeah, been afraid well, not afraid, but weary of it for a while now, particularly with, like you said, and I think I brought this up to you in a previous show. Did we feel like they were kind of long handle spoon, long handle spoon feeding him um into the E the way they did Hendrick? Um,
It might be.
because ultimately, yeah, because ultimately it feels like if I mean he kind of got the X division on his back right now. It feels like obviously you could integrate certain talents in there. I think we've talked about that as well. Maybe throw a Hardy in there. You could always do Trey Miguel, but I think that that'll be doing a disservice to him, particularly with what they have him doing now. Kind of been there, done that. I don't know if he will go that direction with Alexander. So he's kind of really been holding it on his back for a while now, and I think they'd be crazy to let him go because he's young. He's got a tremendous. I mean, he's tremendous now, but he's even got more potential than that. So to me, that's somebody you definitely hold on to. But again, he's had a taste of what it could potentially be like elsewhere. Um, and if they don't give him a certain incentive to stay, or I don't know, something to make the kid realize he probably is a better fed artist in terms of really building his stock in TNA than going elsewhere and just being another young minority talent that they could just that does the flippy stuff and is that third that they can kind of parade out there as if they don't have multiple versions of him elsewhere. Um, yeah, it'll suck and I think you had cut out when you said it, but if they lose Leon Slater, that's just continuing to chop down my tree of faith. That's already it's already in danger in the force right now.
It would be a huge loss. It really would. It'd be a huge loss. I see so much value in him, and he's so talented. As far as replacements, um, I look at Jason Hodge. I feel like if you have the X Division title, you want to give it to someone who can really do something with it, right? Be made by it or in turn elevate it. And I think Hodge winning the X Division title would be huge. As far as someone like Cedric, I think you could do Cedric if you're looking for a spot. You got to carry it for 3 months until you figure out who's going to have it. Like Cedric's, 36 now, right? Cedric's 36. He'll be 37 this year. I don't know if a long X Division run would makes sense for him. That being said, it would be cool to see him win the X Division title, just because of his former ties as a cruiserweight champion and possibly feuding with Mustafa Ali over the belt. That could be a big enough headlining feud if they can build Cedric up to the level he needs to be at to face Mustafa again. Because let's be honest, Cedric is right now like a worker. Like he's
Yeah.
the system, but he's system member number 4. He's not getting a lot of promo
Mm-hmm.
time. He's getting a lot of wrestling time because I think they know what he excels at, and he can work. His matches with so far with Moose. So I don't know if I want to see that, but I think at least on roster. Um, then maybe Jeff Hardy, then maybe Cedric in that order.
Yeah.
That's my thing. But I would like to keep it on Leon Slater until we can figure out what to do with the belt next. But well, who knows how long he's going to be in the company for. So that does take us to a bit of a spoiler. I'm not going to even sit here and pretend that it didn't happen. Like, Rosemary did the whole bit on Impact this past week where she had, what the fuck is that Impact's name? The CEO, the president of the company.
Tony, not Tony, Jesus. Um, Mark something.
Yeah, it's Mark. Mark something. It sounded like you just did like a fucking bit from The Office. Marv something. He bit something like Marv something.
Like,
Carl
yeah,
Silva.
I told you, Jake something had a cousin. Uh,
Carlos Silva.
what? Yeah, Silver. There it is.
So she had him sign something, and everyone's like, "Oh, I wonder what this is." Apparently, it seems to be the foreshadowing the return of Allie to the company, aka the Bunny. Um, we only know this because Allie and Rosemary took a photo with Raven, who was at the tapings this past week, because he lives close to College Park, Georgia. So he popped by. Maybe he'll do something with like a vignette or something like that. Um, I got to assume that this is the return for her, and honestly, I love this idea. I think it gives Rosemary a little bit of a kick. And I think it also brings back a talent that a lot of people are excited about. Ali, she was one of the first people that I think proved that maybe AEW isn't the right fit for everyone because she wasted like 5 years of her career there. She did. She dressed up in a bunny mask sometimes, kind of emulating the I forget her name, but the one chick from New Japan. Remember her?
Peter.
Yeah, Peter Rabbit. So she kind of did like a Peter thing situation a little bit, but like she didn't do anything. She was like a henchwoman for her husband, the Blade, or the Butcher, whatever one Braxton Sutter was. So like
Yeah.
it was kind of a waste of time. And then I think she did like a Hallmark move. Like that was cool. Good for her. And now she's back with TNA. It appears, and I, for one, welcome our new bunny overlord. I don't think she's a great worker. She's a really lackluster athlete, but she's charismatic as hell. Super fun to watch, and I think she could be for TNA what the inspiration we're supposed to be. Truthfully, um, I think she could be a lot of fun. I really do. Are you excited? Because like this is it. Like we know she's coming back. It's not even it's it's your new thing. No, she's coming back. She is. In fact, she actually did something with TNA earlier in 2025. I completely forgot. She was the coach for Team Canada for the Border Brawl event. It's like she already has stuff with TNA, within the last calendar year. Are you excited about her?
I think it's long overdue. I think it's. I mean, how long we've been calling and mentioning her Rosemary's name and talking about they need to integrate her back into things, particularly with the knockouts being um in a unique place to say the least. Uh, pulling back to the Mickey James well of it again. All the stuff that's been happening with I'm about to say fatal influence, but no, all the stuff that's been going on with Dana Brooks faction.
Oh, the elegance.
Yeah, thank you. The Elegance brand and all that stuff that's going on with there, and everything that happened with her and the fallout of that, dropping the title and not wrestling, and now she's beefing with some old knockouts online, and now she's beefing with the TNA knockouts legend. Didn't see them integrating her son into that, but I mean, they killed off on screen before, so that's dialing it back for Mickey. But um, yeah, I think it's you look, dare I say, I feel like Allie is one of the better stories that company told during her original run. Particularly everything she did with Rosemary. That only enhanced Rosemary's character, and it gave her one of the best storylines she had up until the point where they lost the bunny and she, passed into the next dimension, if you will, on screen. And that was a peak, I think, of for that character. And as she's tapered off over the years, it feels like she's needed to regain some of that energy. And what better way to do that than to bring back the thing that gave her, it felt like at times, the most momentum was when she was paired with Allie. And dare I say, Allie, to me, on screen at least, feels like she's paired better with Rosemary than she has her own husband.
Yeah.
So,
Well, her husband's
um, yeah. So to me, it just feels like a no-brainer. And I don't know if when you watched the video, you felt like maybe Rosemary kind of alluded to, you know, a potentially one last run to try to get back to some level of prominence as she was going down a list of things. Um, but it was just good to see her back in that space, them putting some spotlight back on her, her getting potentially back in the mindset to really get to a point where she used to be, which was the main de facto part of the division. Like she was at one point the Slater of the division. Um, and it was really cool to see, particularly when you look at how she started with Decay and all that stuff. I just think it's a no-brainer, and then it's, like you said, it sucks that it got spoiled, but ultimately, if it all works out in the end, it is what it is. But I think that's certainly one of the better parents that they could.
I lost you momentarily.
You get me now?
Yeah, you're back. It was an internet issue.
Gotcha.
I agree. I think their pairing is honestly one of the better ones that we've seen. And I'm curious as to what this can be long term. The Knockouts division needs tag teams. And I think Rosemary and Allie would be a great tag team. And especially if we get the belts on them and away from the Elegance brand, I'm all for that. I really am.
Yeah.
Last bit of news, it's not a TNA roster update, but it is one I'm really excited about. LeBron Cozone is signed with MLW. He was with DPW for a while, and I was really, really intrigued by him. I was curious where he was going to end up with DPW going under. He was one of those guys that, if you look at the promotion, scream star. And apparently he's going to MLW. And I, for one, find this to be great for both him and the brand. They need more talents, especially young talent. Now, he's like 32, 33. He's not young. But he's a big dude, great shape, hell of an athlete, and he's someone that, went toe-to-toe with guys like, Calvin Tankman, Jake Something, Adam Priest over there in DPW. So there's a lot of reasons to like this dude. I'm hopeful, truly hopeful, that MLW can help raise this guy's profile, because if they can, I think Kazone could. I correctly. So if I'm saying it wrong, it's not intentional. I listen to a lot of wrestling on the indies. Most of the time, I find the announcers to be terrible, so I mute it. This dude could end up being, for MLW, what Hammerstone was the first time through Jacob Plot 2 was when he was, where they had big, dynamic champion reigns that really raised. if you're new to wrestling or new to MLW or new to DPW or new to this guy, I think you take a look at him because I think you might end up finding that he is someone that you could really gravitate to. You being the general audience, but also Marcus, you as well. I think you'll enjoy this. Um, have you heard of this guy before? Have you watched any DPW?
I haven't. Um, but I will say in terms of MLW, they have, because I've been for a while, being a fan of them vicariously in a lot of ways, a lot of times through you, and then by way of that, going and watch some of the shows. But the fact that they've been able to draw in a lot of talents that otherwise, I guess, and the linemen like with TNA not working in other places, but working for them as well as drawing back big talents like Hammerstone and others, shows that they really seem to have a better firm hand on a working wheel in some ways than even TNA do. Not that that's hard to do with the two stooges, like you said, that are running the show. Putting Silver to the side momentarily. In terms of Delirious and you said Dreamer. So
Yeah,
um,
the writers.
y- yeah, in terms of them. So they doing something right, but I haven't heard of them, but like you said, somebody to definitely check out because a lot of times it feels like when these guys have come to MLW, whatever potential that they've shown has kind of, I mean, it's kind of been brought to the surface. I mean, because I didn't, you know, really know anything about somebody named MJF, but look where he started, look where he's at now. So,
MLW also helped raise the profiles of guys like Darby Allin, Swerve, even though Holiday. There are a lot of guys that I think could benefit from the MLW rub. By there was, I thought we had another story. So this is news to me. It's an update on Richard Holiday, former MLW wrestler who's been popping up all over the indies. There was a rumor recently that he had signed with TNA Wrestling, which I was unaware of. During an appearance on the Inside the Ring podcast, Holiday confirmed that he has seen online reports and fan tweets about TNA talent pushing from sign with the company. Holiday said he is aware of the buzz, but is not focused on a single destination, noting that the broader wrestling opportunities excite him and that he is committed to building his brand, especially through social media. Holiday further explained that he advises young wrestlers not to obsess over where they end up, but to make every current opportunity feel important. So it looks like he's denying that he's signed with TNA. Who's to say at this point? I certainly don't know. I hope he does. I think he'd be great. I really would. He'd be a great hand for TNA. But also, I have doubts that TNA would know what to do because they have a bunch of idiots. Idiots. That being said, Marcus, I have nothing else to tackle. Anything else you want to bring up or talk about before we call it a night?
no, that's it for me, bro.
Then we will call it a night. We'll be back next week. I think next week might be the DiBiase show, but we'll have to link up this week and discuss what it is all we're going to talk about. That should be next week unless something super mega urgent happens. But yeah. For EALNERDCRP.com, Twitter at NERDCRP. We are on our own personals. Twitter,
That's me.
you can also find him on his other podcast, The Truth, Twitter as well, True Penny Show. Check them out there. That's where they upload all their shows. You can find links to it. Marcus, what are you guys talking about this coming episode for the True Penny Show and or have
Oh man, right now the New Japan Cup is happening, so stay on the lookout for all of the up to date reviews of those shows, and yeah, I think we got some other stuff coming up, like maybe the second half of talking Life and Times of One Fit Finley. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that.
You can find me on my personals, Chad Nerdcorp on Twitter, ChadNerdCorp. Chad's photo at CHDSPHOTO8. Chad's photo at You can also find me on the website at realnerdcorp.com, at twitch.com, or twitch.tv/wrestling. We're also on youtube.com at youtube.com/wrestling. For Marcus, I'm Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus.